Awesome. Well, before we get started, we'll just do quick introductions. My name's David Welliver. I'm the founder of Money Under 30, and we've got Sam, and we'll just go down the line here.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Sam from Financial Samurai. I started my site in 2009 during the height of the financial crisis to try to make sense of all the chaos. And in 2012, I left my job, and I've been doing this full-time ever since. Thanks for coming out.
Good morning, everyone. I am Beta. I am the EVP of Media and Sales Strategy over at Consumer Track. We own and operate Go Banking Rates. You might have seen us in the expo hall. Super glad to be here. Excited to be on this panel with all the amazing people here. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Taylor. I'm the founder and CEO of The Penny Hoarder. And I'm very proud to say that we were just ranked the #1 fastest growing media company by Inc. magazine. Thank you. And we're very focused on 2017 already, so we're excited to share a little bit about what we're working on and what we're seeing. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Stacy Wakefield, VP of Marketing at Credit Sesame. Credit Sesame is a free credit score app and website. We work with both publishers, bloggers like you guys, and we also are an advertiser for some of the same companies that you guys advertise with. But generally, we help people manage their credit and debt and give people the free credit scores and report card.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So our panel is about looking ahead to 2017 and thinking about what might be the hot trends, what might be the next big thing. So we're going to look at it from two angles. We're going to look at it from a business angle, as you're running your businesses, your sites, your apps, whatever you're working on, what might be the big things to think about in business, what might be changing in the marketplace, what advertisers might be hot. And then we're going to go into personal finance a little bit, what might be changing in the personal finance worlds that might affect, what you're writing about. So we'll start with business, and we'll go for about 30 minutes and then open it up for about 15 minutes of questions, I hope. So one of the big things it's getting big already, but native advertising is going to be or could be a $20 billion industry by 2020. So even today, we might not be there yet, but there are valuable partnership opportunities to take advantage of with sponsors, and it's changing. It's making a business model that's more viable for smaller sites, but it's also driving the growth of very, very large publishers as well. So I wanted to start with native advertising, and maybe we'll start with Kyle. You've obviously seen some success in this area. What do you think? What's been key to your success with native? Where do you see it going in 2017?
Yeah, I think consumers are voting right now, and they're downloading ad blockers at a massive rate. Ad blockers are supposed to go up almost 30% this year. They're not clicking display ads at the same rates they were in the early 2000s. And that's a signal we should look at and respect. Consumers want to see ads that they want that look like content and that are well done. So, yes, native advertising is expected to grow to $20 to $25 billion by 2020, and I think it's a great opportunity for both small and large publishers. And as bloggers, I think one way we can take advantage of it is native advertising gives us a way of using our trust currency, the trust that we've built up with our readers, to share really valuable products and brands that we care about with our readers in a way that doesn't feel salesy or in a way that doesn't feel like advertising. I think it's going to be a really exciting couple of years for bloggers.
That's awesome. From the advertiser side, I don't know, Beta or Stacy, if you have things to add. What are you guys doing with native? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, I mean, we really use it on both ends. I mean, for user acquisition, we work with sites like Kyle's, and we receive great quality leads from his site. And then on the flip side of that, we as a site that works with advertisers as well, we're able to provide higher engaged users. We are able to monetize the users better on our site because we use the credit profile data to show them the right ads based off of their credit profile. And from the advertiser's perspective, they really love that quality, and I think that they're looking to grow with partners like ours a lot because they see that that's a better strategic partnership for them and a better place to get good quality.
Yeah, I think from our perspective also, from an advertiser side, it's higher efficiencies at a lower cost. So it makes it more worthwhile sometimes than running paid search or, bidding on paid trademark terms that are, $20 to $50 per click. Native is a really unique way to advertise and promote your different promotions. And then in addition to that, it's just a cool way of targeting consumers too. A lot of people don't know the abilities to target within Native, and so everything that you can essentially do on paid search, you can replicate in Native, target, build custom audiences for yourselves, for your clients, and then from a site perspective, we use it on GoBanking rates to monetize our site. It's an easy way to fill in within content and build out, like Kyle said, the trust from the consumer, and then promote different opportunities and options for our clients.
Great. Do you have anything to add, Sam? Have you done Native?
I would say like less than 1% of my advertising revenue is native.
Yeah.
Which would be partnering with other brands. I mostly focus on affiliates and products that I like and I use, and that I would recommend to everybody and my grandmother. So
That's good.
I don't know too much about native. I think it depends on your size of your site. I think the larger your site, the more bigger brands will come and try to do native advertising with you. Financial Samurai is a medium-sized site, relatively small in the grand scheme of things. So native is kind of something where I think it directs your course of your writing, whereas if you are a publisher who likes to write, you want to actually write about what you want and then find something that piggybacks off what you care most about.
That's a good point. Relatedly, another big trend I think coming in 2017, well, it's already here, but that will be growing even more so is video. We've seen Google love video for years with YouTube, and now Facebook has said that they're really going to be focusing on video, not just for content, but for their advertisers as well. There is, within video, it's interesting, there really is a low barrier to entry with our iPhones. We basically have these recording studios in our pockets, and yet there's more opportunity to make an impact with video because it seems like less people are doing it. So wanted to talk about video a little bit. Bita, maybe we'll start with you. You guys have done a lot of video and said that you see a lot of opportunity there going forward.
Yeah, about a year ago, we actually made an investment in the company and started a video team. And it started with one person, and it grew into 3 people now, and you might have seen them walking around at FinCon this week. But video, we've learned, is a huge opportunity. There's so much video content that is wanted and needed, not only by our readers, but other publications as well. So we were basically like, all right, let's try to fill a gap there. But like any other thing, there's more to be made. There's just never enough video that we're seeing. And there's a lot of the different publications and partnerships that we have just want more. One thing that really drew us to video was we were talking to one of our partners, and they were saying that from an advertiser and monetization standpoint, video produces basically 2 to 3 times the eCPMs they were seeing on display ads from a revenue standpoint. So the engagement's higher, the return of readership is higher. So it's definitely beneficial. It's something that we think is important. It's been important this year, and it's just going to grow even more so next.
Do you have something? Go ahead, Stacey.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. So from my perspective, we're constantly looking for new publishers and ways to drive users to our website. And so this year we've been working with companies like Relio and Grapevine. So they work with a lot of YouTube influencers. And it's been great. We've seen that some of those, YouTube influencers have these amazing followings, and the people that they send to us are some of our best customers that we get. But the challenge is that it's just been really hard to scale because there's just not enough video out there. So, I would really encourage you guys as, people who have a trusted following and trusted voice, to produce more videos. And, there's a lot of advertisers who would love, to have you represent their brands, for one-offs and, and maybe even as a strategic partnership. But, for us, it's something that we would love to grow and scale. And I hope that, we're just able to get enough video influencers to work with us.
That's great. And Kyle, so you've done a lot of video as well, and they're popping up on my Facebook feed, and they're entertaining, and I find myself watching them. But you said something that you've been able to get ROI from Facebook videos, even Facebook Live videos. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I feel like we've been saying video is going to be huge
For years, right? Yeah.
It's still true.
It's finally here.
That's funny. So we've experimented with a couple of different formats on the monetization side, and one of the earlier, for a long time, I was terrified of video and sort of fighting the trend because I thought, I don't know how to do this. It's going to cost a ton of money. And we worked to produce a video with one of our sponsors. And I quickly realized I also was not a good actor. So we scrapped that. And then Facebook Live started becoming a thing. And what I love about it is it's such a low barrier entry. I mean, any of us can be doing Facebook Live right now. And Facebook wants us to do it. They've told us many times. In fact, they're paying really large brands to do it. And it's different than even other types of content monetization, because since Facebook sends a notification to all of your users, you have a pretty good idea every time of how many users are going to come to that video. Once you've done it once or twice, the view count is almost similar every single time. And that's something you can sell to brands. I can tell them, listen, we have this many views on average with our live videos. And it makes it a really fun, easy way without any production costs.
That's really great. I didn't know that about the view counts being pretty consistent. That's great. Where do you guys see video going? Just really quickly, is there anything? Obviously, doing video is a good first step that a lot of people can capitalize on. But do you see any other trends? I mean, Facebook Live is one. Anything else that's going to change in video in 2017?
I mean, I think from the advertiser perspective, if a lot of the different brands that we work with are interested in a lot of sponsorships that include either pre-roll opportunities or additional advertisement opportunities. And so I think pre-roll or video, is going to be a big part of sponsorship packages over the next couple years, primarily even as soon as this year, at the end of this year. I think we're talking to a couple different groups out there about, whether they want to be a sponsor for a video or pre-roll for a video. So the opportunity's there. It's just going to get bigger and bigger from an advertising perspective, and people are going to want to be more involved in it. So that's a really cool thing, and that's really exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, I'll just disagree with one little part of that. I hate pre-roll. And my guess is that consumers are going to vote the same way they have with display ads. And pre-roll, while it will still be a big thing in 2017, you're absolutely right, we'll start to transition into mid-roll ads. So and Facebook's already said they want us creating longer videos, that their future monetization plans probably include placing an ad in the middle of your video. And I think the reason that's better for the consumer is you don't have to wait 30 seconds to find out if you want to watch something. If you're already 5-10 minutes into something, you're more likely to sit through a 30-second commercial to watch the last 10 minutes of it. So longer videos with a mid-roll, I think, is going to be something we see more of next year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that a little bit. We do advertising on Google quite a bit, and we talk to our Google reps fairly often, and they're constantly trying to get us to buy YouTube ads. And we've tried it a couple times, but it never works. Like getting our commercial on a pre-roll of a YouTube ad, it just doesn't perform. It's really your branding dollars. So depending on the company that you're working with, I think if they have the branding dollars to spend and that's what they're really going after, like sure, then you can use YouTube. But I think for what the kind of content that the people here are producing, I feel like it's much better if you can put the brand into your content somehow, and make it more relevant to what you're talking about. So just having a pre-roll ad that's in the beginning of a random video that has nothing to do with what the person is talking about in the video is not going to perform very well.
That's interesting. Thanks, guys. Changing directions a little bit, and I'm going to jump around on you guys just a bit. So, sorry. As far as looking at monetizing your sites and where advertising dollars are, whether you're a small site or a large site, you're always interested in, where do I focus my resources in going after advertisers who can actually, make a difference, and, we can help each other out with their budgets. I'm going to produce content that's going to help them, and they're going to be able to, give us meaningful advertising dollars. There are a lot of big players in the financial space, but interestingly enough, they may not be the best companies to go after in terms of getting advertisers. And Sam has said that he's seen a lot of potential in fintech startups. He's in the San Francisco area, and he's seeing all the money being poured into these startups that are hungry for new users. So talk a little bit about that, Sam, and why you see the opportunity in startups.
Sure. First of all, I just wanted to ask how many of you guys are personal finance bloggers? Okay, great. Okay, because there's actually a lot of lifestyle and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And how many of you guys want to make a lot more money in 2017? So only 30% of you. Okay, great. Okay. So I think one of the keys to making a lot more money is to simply follow the money. So in 2015, there was about $15 billion of funding in fintech, and a lot of that was in Bay Area companies. So if you follow the money, you don't have to be a private equity investing guru. You just have to see where the money is going. So when you follow the money, you see where the trends are. So the trends, for example, over the $15 billion last year and something like $5 billion this quarter was in lending, insurance, wealth management, and a little bit of blockchain. And if you divide that pie of the first quarter funding, about 65% of that is actually in Asia, and then 30% is in the United States, and the rest is in the rest of the world. So if you think about that, you don't have to do any research in terms of analyzing companies or anything. You just need to know where all these VCs are spending their money. And so with that data in mind, you can say, well, if I'm going to start a site today, I would start a site that has a target audience of American consumers and Asian consumers that focus on wealth management, insurance, and so forth. I mean, that's just basically how you can distill where the trend is for 2017. And if you look at the people out here, the sponsors, for example, Policy Genius, they were like a great company here that had a nice sponsorship yesterday, and they're one of the clients. And they raised $15 million early this year. So that is a company that probably will be around at least for the next couple of years and hopefully much, much longer. SoFi, they raised $1 billion last year, and they're probably going to be around for a very long time. And then Personal Capital raised $75 million. So these are the companies that are leading the trend for fintech, and also are the guys who are going to be paying the most probably to help partner with you guys to establish a brand and grow their audience. Because if you look at guys like Fidelity and Wells Fargo, or those guys, right? Those guys already are mega large, mega rich. They're not going to really deal with smaller guys, or most of us. But the startup guys are kind of like brothers in arms, sisters in arms, where we're going to kind of try to grow together. And so those are the people that you want to target, and those are the people you want to have a purposeful relationship with today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Thanks, Sam. You guys, are you seeing, advertising dollars coming from startups, and not just startups? Are you seeing any particular verticals that are kind of outperforming or will outperform in 2017?
Yeah, I think for us, a year ago, we would have said alternative lending would be huge. Everybody should work on alternative lending. But then a few months ago, there was a lot of bad news around some of the big players in the space, Lending Club and Prosper. And so with that, we've seen a lot of companies come and go. There were a lot of startups that got funding, and, even probably at this conference last year that were spending a lot of money doing fun things with people, and and now those companies are struggling and almost going out of business because they can't raise more capital. But, I think that, like Sam said, SoFi is one for sure that, it is, if they're continuing to raise money, I think that they will stay around. If they've raised money this year particularly, then they are most likely going to be in the space for a long time to come. I think another good player that I would recommend would be LendUp. They're doing some really cool things in personal finance, and they've recently raised a round of capital as well. And so, those kind of companies, it's good to just keep an eye on them. Look at Crunchbase and some other sites, and just stay on top of who's getting funding.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, fintech's been great for us too, but it is changing. So we were joking that a couple of years ago, we just would get these checks and they would say, go spend it, and they didn't really care about the results. That doesn't happen anymore. Now they want an instant ROI, and they want it like 5 minutes after the post goes live. So they're being a little bit more cautious. There's a lot of money to spend, but they're being a little bit more cautious, and they want to make sure that they're getting results, which is why we're a fan of working with brands on an affiliate basis. I think it takes a little bit of risk out for them. As far as verticals go, I think two are really big right now. Student loans is huge. That's been a great vertical for us. And then all these companies that are working to change the way that consumers save money. So Digit and Acorns and Aspiration that are sort of fundamentally changing where we save. I think those are going to have a really great year in 2017.
Yeah, that's a good point. Great, thanks, guys. So moving on, we're talking quickly a little bit about SEO, and we never know quite what Google's going to do, but whether our sites are designed for SEO, and that's where we get a lot of our traffic, or they're not, and we get some traffic from Google anyway, it's still going to be a big part of our business. There are some changes that we've heard talking about from Google. One that's been widely talked about is that they're going to be cracking down on pop-ups, which I know is something we have to deal with. I mean, it's our best performing way to get email subscribers on our site, and so we're going to have to look at alternatives to that. But we've also heard some things about new algorithms. There's talk of RankBrain, which is a way of looking at what people are actually doing, going to sites from Google, and then if they're not finding what they're looking for, coming back, and Google's now going to take that into account. Are you guys looking at search at all? What are your strategies for going forward in 2017 as far as taking advantage of opportunities in search, or challenges that things have changed over the years?
Listen, Google and Facebook are your frenemies, okay? We want to be friends with them. They're good to us, right? They send a lot of traffic, but you need to look one eye over your shoulder here. And I think one way to do that is to pay very close attention to these press releases they're sending out. And when they talk about wanting to create a better experience for their consumers and for search customers, we as bloggers and as website owners need to pay attention to that. So pop-ups is one thing, but I think another huge thing that's going to affect the algorithm in 2017 is Google AMP. Is anybody using Google AMP yet? Okay, good. So Google Accelerated Mobile Pages. It's a really simple plugin. It'll take you just a couple of hours to set up, but it allows your site to load instantly when a mobile user from Google searches your site. And right now we're finding it mainly in the news category. So if you write about something newsy, chances are you'll have an AMP article that ranks. But next year, that looks like that they might roll that out to just about every vertical and every piece of content.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. We implemented a few months ago, and at first didn't see anything from it, and every week there's more and more.
Yes.
I think you're right. It's starting to roll out and take over. You doing anything, Sam, for search or?
SEO is pretty interesting. I've done very little since I started in 2009, and I feel like it's almost like a snake oil salesman industry where they're trying to tell you, like, think about this logic. If you are so good in SEO, why don't you create your own amazing SEO site and just kick back and make all your passive income online, right? So you've got to ask those people that question, and then let's see what they say. So think about search as a really basic way to say, what would you be searching for yourself online? I mean, that is the easiest guideline in terms of how I'm going to create a title. What would I write online? And I would put that in my title. And then I'd probably play around with it with a semicolon, a subtitle. But search is something where, yes, it's so powerful. Frenemies, for sure. Over 70% of my traffic is from search, mostly Google, obviously. But I think you guys have to spend less time on search because it's very logical. There's no magic to it. And one of the things we're talking about is how Google is going to be casting a wider net in terms of search terms for related terms. They're going to do the work for you. They're going to do the work for you to be able to find your content. If you can write meatier content with good multimedia, videos, graphics, and so forth, and you have to have something to say. My site, a lot of it has to do with real estate because I like real estate a lot. I'm pro real estate, but then, if you bring about someone who really hates real estate, there's this one great guest post by Millennial Revolution. I mean, she just throws it out there. She doesn't give a crap. She's like the person with the FU money who doesn't really care. And that is the stuff that has been picked up all over, the web, the big media sites, in Canada and everything. So I would just focus more on your content and making it unique, creative, longer, meatier, and focus less on, trying to game the system because I think it's a waste of time.
Good points. Thanks. Yeah, go for it.
On the app, you mentioned a plugin. I've seen a plugin for WordPress blog posts.
Yes.
But I haven't seen a plugin for other pages. Is there such a thing, or are you?
You are on WordPress? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So this is for your blog posts, and
Not other pages.
right. So I mean, that's mainly what people are searching for, right? Is our content. And I think Sam's absolutely right here. So things like keywords are probably going to be less important going forward in 2017. The algorithm is getting smarter. So I agree with you. Don't try to game it, but listen to what they're saying and just create the best possible user experience as possible, and it'll naturally start to move up.
And build your brand. So think about your brand. My brand is more of a Samurai Mask and Financial Samurai. So under that brand or Penny Hoarder brand, you can build other things. You can scale it really quickly if you focus on your brand. So try to be consistent in your message, your tagline, your voice, the colors across all mediums, and I think you can really grow your site that way.
Those are great points. Thanks, guys. Very quickly, and then we'll move quickly into personal finance trends before we get some questions. We don't run out of time, but in social, besides video on Facebook, what are we seeing? Maybe Bita, you can start us off. Anything you're going to do differently for social in 2017?
I think for social, our goal as getting into it is to test the heck out of it and test everything possible. The one thing for social is that users are incredibly engaged. They listen to you. They'll buy your products. They'll go to your site. And so I think for us, it's finding the right type of ad copy, content, anything that's compelling enough for the to catch the user's attention. Because as you guys know, if you flip through your Facebook or your Instagram or Snapchat, there's more and more advertisements in there, so you've got to stand out more, and that has to come with testing and doing a whole lot of testing. So when you're looking at doing a social media buy for some content on Facebook, test about 50 different iterations of it, because there's probably going to be one that actually works, and you won't know until you put it out there yourself.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that Snapchat and Instagram are exploding right now, but I'm not a snapper, so we have a Penny Hoarder Snapchat. It's wonderful. Please check it out. But I think as bloggers, even though these are exploding, you need to pick one. Pick one social network and really own it, because it can be too overwhelming. I mean, last year I feel like we were talking about Periscope every 5 seconds, and now
That's a good point.
yeah, it's Periscope. So find a network that you love and that your visitors really love, and own it. And then as you start to get bigger, maybe take on the second one. But don't try to own all of them at once.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I think we've made that mistake, where we've tried to just, blast all of our content across all of our social media channels, and you really just spread yourself too thin. And I think that another thing that, I'm seeing across the social channels is that it's really pay to play, I think, now. I mean, if you really want to make it work, you have to put up some advertising dollars. And when we meet with Facebook, they say don't waste your time on building your Facebook page. They say just advertise. And of course they're trying to get us to make money. But I think that it's pretty true that with their algorithm changes and that they're probably just going to continue to get worse for people who are putting up content for free on Facebook. So
Yeah, Sam, you got something?
I was just going to say, so these guys, Facebook, Twitter, all those guys, they're worth billions. Their employees are very wealthy, and they've been able to change the rules on you after you built your community, right? So you got to think about it as a consumer, as a producer, as an entrepreneur. You want to spend your time building traffic to your own site, not traffic to their site, because they're already rich, they're already big, they already got everything, right? They've got you. It's pay to play. So spend your incremental time building traffic on your site. And with search, search, it's frenemies, but Google really is, I think, a relatively better friend than Facebook, even though the Facebook ad spend, and I know from Kyle's speech, and I know from testing while consulting with other fintech companies in their marketing department, that Facebook is probably the best ROI for ad spend.
Yeah, it's a good point. Quickly, we'll just go on so we have a couple minutes for questions, but we'll loop personal finance trends together. We said we talked a little bit about student loans are obviously very big. There are a lot of new options for student loans now for people taking over. There's questions about whether we're going to be in a crisis as far as the number of people with debt and the debt loads that people are carrying, but also other trends we're seeing. The hunt for yield and investors looking for ways to, the stock market's high, bonds aren't returning anything, interest rates are super low. So maybe just like everyone can comment a little bit on what do you think the biggest thing in 2017 is going to be as far as the, personal finance and the topics we cover, and, what will we be talking about next year? What will happen in 2017? Sam, you want to start out?
I think a big theme is rates will be lower for longer, perhaps for the rest of our lives. So if you think about low rates, what happens? So the margins compress if you're a bank, and so they're not making as much money. And then also at the same time, lending, as we talked about, is a hot item in fintech. So I think lending and rates are going to be very popular. And in terms of a big theme, it's going to be a hunt for yield. Hunt for yield means looking for investment opportunities that provide a bigger return than what we got now, right? So in the past, the stock market would return 7 to 8%. It might return only 4 to 5%. Bonds are only yielding about 1.7 to 2%, although bonds have done very well over the past 12 months to 24 months because money has been pouring in to any asset class that gets a better return. So the bottom line from that is you want to look at products and partners that address this problem. And that field, I think, is, for example, real estate crowdsourcing and P2P to a lesser extent now. But I think it's still going to be here. But if you think about real estate crowdsourcing, rental properties, all that stuff is gaining a lot of attention because people are needing and requiring a bigger rate of return.
That's great. Vita?
I have to agree with Sam about the rates. So I had probably 1 million people ask me, when do you think deposit rates are going to go up? And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Good luck with that. So I think as a generation, especially with millennials, we're going to have to start thinking a lot more about our future. And I think for being in that millennial environment, sometimes that's scary, right? Sometimes you don't think about retirement or you don't think about investment or how to play in that game. And I think one thing that, we as consumer-facing personal finance sites can do is make it a little bit easier for the consumer out there to join investment groups, to learn more about it, to educate them. I think that's going to be a bigger trend. We're seeing it from an advertising perspective. We're seeing it from a publisher perspective. People want to know more about retirement, about investment. So I think that's going to be an upward trend into next year as well.
Yeah, isn't it crazy, though, that the Fed funds rate is only 0.25, and yet most of us have student loans at 8%? Something wrong there. And I think that's going to be something that we hear more about next year is the student loan crisis. I mean, 2/3 of student loan debt is held by people doctors, lawyers, wealthy people, and that's great student loan debt. But for the rest of us who didn't go into that, I know when I got out of college, when I left college, I had $50,000 in student loan debt, and I was making $12 an hour. And I'm sure there's a lot of people we hear from our readers all the time that have that same experience. So wouldn't be surprised if after the elections, they usually get 100 days to do one thing before we get to go through another 4 years. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was something that Congress and whoever wins the presidency takes on.
That's on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also agree that student loans is a really hot topic right now. I mean, I think, with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton bringing that up in the elections, making it kind of front and center, it's made it something that people are even more interested in hearing about. We see that from the credit profile data that we have that our consumers are definitely, in a lot of student loan debt. We recently released a piece about how people are in more student loan debt than the average income for their cities, and so it's really, it really is a crisis. And I think that we also have seen from some surveys that we've done that people are actually voting as well based off of how much student loan debt that they have. And so, I think that it's something that people really do honestly care about, and that, it's something that we need to address as a financial community and really try to come together and help people solve those problems.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, go ahead.
So the other thing I think you guys all need to be aware about is that we're in the 8th year of a bull market, right? So if you're over the age of, 35, 40, 50, I mean, we've all gotten crushed before in 2000 and 2001, and then, Asian equity crisis in 1997, and then the Russian ruble crisis. It's like crazy. There's always these cycles, and what we're seeing is that a lot of people, a lot of startups, and a lot of new bloggers have been growing up in the age of the bull market, right? Everybody's making a lot of money, everything is good, but maybe things might change. It's an 8-10 year cycle. You don't know. Nobody knows the future, so you should be thinking about products and a portfolio of writing that would offer a hedge in case there's a downturn next year or maybe the following year. We're already seeing high-end real estate fade about 10%. Inventory's rising. You're seeing job board listings go down about 30 to 40% year over year here in the Bay Area. It kind of starts at the top and it gradually compresses down. A lot of people talk about, I'm always so cautious and bearish sometimes. But I'm just saying, look, it's been good times for a long, long time. Eventually, things are going to turn, and you need to have that portfolio of content and those partners that you've identified that will continue to make you money and bring you traffic during the bad times.
That's a great point. We have a few minutes for questions. Can be on anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, the point of that is to strip down as much junk as we're trying to put in. If you care about, continuing to engage with the people who are finding us and maybe don't know us before, I'm really focused on email. What are some best practices to make sure we can kind of continue with people who are just finding us through AMP?
So the question is, I'll just repeat it for everybody, is in AMP, Google AMP strips out a lot of content to really just focus on the article and the content itself. And so, Will's question is, how do you, continue to use that to drive engagement when Google's taking stuff out?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. The thing with AMP is, Google has stripped it down pretty far, but not completely, because they still want to serve AdSense ads in there. So you do have the ability to add some of this stuff back, but it needs to be in Google-friendly language. And so I would suggest you use their developer toolkit. They just want you to write your code in a slightly different way. You can still add an email subscription box. You can still add social sharing buttons to an AMP page. But they do want some of those very resource-heavy plugins to come off, and for instead that code to be hard-coded on there.
Yeah.
My name's Randy. With the plethora of native advertisers available to everyone, how do you go about picking which ones will work best?
With so many native ads out there, possible advertisers, how do you choose the ones that are right?
Pick your favorites. So pick the ones that you identify with and you use. I wouldn't worry too much about which ones convert as much at first, because you're going to write your best content about the things that you love, and it's going to come off the most authentic and the most honest, and readers are going to trust that and be more likely to take your advice.
Yeah, and I would also say that, think about your audience. If your audience, is a certain demographic, what are the products that will suit them the best? Where can you help them solve their problems, and which of those advertisers' products can help them solve their problems?
That's right. Yeah. So when looking for video advertising, what are advertisers looking for in video, especially?
Yeah, we've tested all kinds of vloggers and influencers, and where we see the most success is with people who can tell a personal story that then they can tie back to our brand. What we find with our credit score product is that people really use it because they're about to buy a home pretty soon, or get a car. And so whenever they start to tie it to a personal story, or when they're interviewing someone else potentially, then that's when it works really well. We also try to get them to talk about our brand for about 2 minutes and show the product as well. We get really positive feedback too on the comments from the videos. Most of the time, whenever people talk about our brand, they're like, "Oh, thank you so much for bringing up this topic. It's something that no one really talks about. Finance is still kind of taboo," because we are also on a lot of lifestyle blogs, so I think that just being able to tie it in somehow to something that's a little more personal is really going to get the best response and make your advertisers the most happy.
That's great.
I'll just add to that too. Since we love live so much. I think one way to make it interesting for brands is, I'm not great just talking to camera about something I love, but I think it's fun to interact with somebody in a live video. So, for example, I'm trying to get Stacy to let me go down to the beach and ask people about their credit scores, because it's a fun way of engaging with credit. So that's maybe a fun way of engaging with the app, and it doesn't feel like you're selling something. It just feels like a fun way to talk about credit.
Yeah, a lot of the groups that we work with do a lot of surveys, right? And sometimes their surveys don't get that much promotion, and video is a great way to tie in the content of the survey and basically put it in an easy format for people to understand and relate to. And it targets the audience correctly. It targets the content is easily approachable, and it's something that I think from a brand perspective, it works well for them, and they enjoy it, and they like it, and they want more of it.
Great. Thanks, guys. I think we got one more question, if someone has one. Yeah.
So it's still more in the personal finance space, but so with hikes being passed over, or projected and then passed over, big banks are going to be looking for different aspects to make money, and then possibly trying to catch up with the tech companies. Do you see that affecting, I guess, the upcoming year and beyond? Are those big banks and big financial institutions going to end up kind of eating up the quote-unquote little guys, even though they're billion-dollar companies?
Yeah, so just to repeat the question, so with rates kind of stagnant, the banks are going to be looking for new ways to make money. Are we going to see new fees? Are they going to acquire some of the startups? What do you guys see?
So you've seen BlackRock buy Future Advisor last year, and I think for Future Advisor's point of view, that was a great sale, because a lot of the fintech companies are not making money, or they're making money but they're not profitable, because you need a really huge amount of assets under management to scale. So I think this trend will continue, and the big question is, the larger the fintech guys get, or the larger the startup companies get, the harder they are to be acquired. You just have to make longer decisions, more consensus, all that good stuff. So the irony for publishers is that the more big institutions buy our partners, our startup companies, our guys that, like Policy Genius or whatever, it's going to be great for them. but they have their own internal controls in terms of advertising. They've got their own huge brand marketing spend, and they may look beyond us. So that actually is a trend that we actually probably don't want to happen unless they give these startups the autonomy to run their affiliate marketing program, their budget, whatever the way they want, and then just have some synergistic marketing campaigns with the bigger brand. So we actually probably I don't think I want all that acquisition to happen. Ideally, I'd love for the best affiliate partner to grow into the big company, and we have a 10, 20-year relationship, and we go out for steak dinners and say, hey, here's another $10,000. There you go, have fun, and then let's do something. And that's the way business has always been done, building that relationship from the ground up. So we as small publishers want everybody to succeed and grow big, so they don't forget about us.
That's a great point. Well, thank you guys very much for coming out. I think that's it.